What's going on, world? It is I, Timmésha Burgess, Miss Burgess, if you're nasty. And this is our community because turning pain into power is sexy. So I just want to clarify something really quick before we dive into the message of today. When I say Miss Burgess, if you're nasty, honey, it is just a metaphor. I am not for everyone and everything. I don't know if you listened to my last cast. My last cast talked about the power of the kitty cat and calling your power back. And I emphasize that not everybody can touch the kitty. Okay? Not everybody has access to the cat. Hello. Cats will right? I just want to emphasize when I say Miss Burgess, if you're nasty, I have adopted that from our mother, Miss Janet Jackson, right? So if you know anything about Janet Jackson, you know, her normal day-to-day self, she was so shy and just reserved. But when she transformed and when she alchemized her pains into power through her songs, through her dance, when she was on stage, honey, she became this fierce, baby, sensual, sexual being. And so that is who I am. That's how I bring myself to alchemy. When I say Miss Burgess, if you're nasty, it is just my sensual and sexual self activated. But sensuality and sexuality has nothing to do with sex, but everything to do with an ancient innate power that is activated and unleashed for more reasons than just one. It is activated and unleashed for purpose, for power, for mission. So I just want to clarify that. Let's just get into the message, y'all. Y'all ready? How y'all doing? I hope y'all all right. Hey. Okay. So this is going to be a series on how to turn your pains into power. I know for some time here on Our Community, I have dived deep into just the general philosophies of what it means to turn pain into power, just coming into this ancient wisdom and knowledge just about what this means, just generally speaking. But I'm going to start breaking some things down because I've been getting questions from our subscriber base here of, well, how do you do this? The things that you talk about, Timmésha, like how do you actually break that down in tangible terms, in day-to-day terms? You know, like my mom loves to say, she says, how do you put it to where the goats can get it, right? So I am putting it where the goats can get it. And sorry, guys, if you hear noise in the background, there are construction workers around where I live and they are doing what they have to do. So if you hear noise in the background, just ignore it and just focus on the message. Okay, here we go. So I'm breaking things down in a way that the goats can get it. And so this series is going to start to be more specific about how to, right? It's going to be the what, but how to do these day-to-day things. And when I feel guided to share a message, I go ahead and just press record and I just put it out there. So this is one of those things, right? I don't ever do anything scripted, not when it comes to my content here on YouTube. When it comes up, I let it come out. So let's dive into it. This is going to be how to turn your pain into power by knowing your shit. One of the number one rules or keys to turning pain into power is by knowing your stuff. Being informed, having done your research, knowing your shit. Number one is how you turn pain into power. And I say that because whenever you are in a room, okay, whenever you are in a position of power, in a leadership position, whether you are an employee or a consultant, an entrepreneur, a business owner, whatever it is that you do in your purpose and your power and in your mission on this planet, knowing your shit, knowing your stuff, is how you activate your superpower, is how you alchemize pain into power. Because when you know your stuff, when you know your shit, people may try to question you, but you've got the research, you've got the receipts to back it up, right? There was somebody that asked me about panic attacks before. Like, how do I get rid of being nervous? How do I, they talked about having, how they experience panic attacks when they speak in front of people and things like that. And I said, I've experienced that too. I know what that's like. But what kind of helps that subside? I'm not saying nervousness goes away. It does not. There'll always be this angst, this ball of energy there just waiting to explode. But the way that you alchemize that for your gain and for your purposes and for your power is by knowing what it is that you're coming to present. If you are a public speaker, knowing your shit, knowing what you're coming to talk about is how you turn those panic attacks or that nervousness into your power. It's how you turn it around to work for you as opposed to against you. Okay. I want to give another example. When I was a consultant in the special needs space before 2020, I owned my own consulting company where I consulted with special needs providers who provided day services and residential services to our special needs population. So my job was to come in and audit for policy compliance. This is what kept them in business. This is what kept their doors open. This is what kept them receiving funding so that they can continue to render services. They had to make sure their T's were crossed and their I's were dotted, that they were following the rules. And I was the one to help them do that so that they can receive their certifications and their funding and stay in business, right? So I remember, and I talk about this briefly in my book, Activate. If you haven't got your copy, go ahead and get that. Okay, get that. It's on Amazon in paperback and ebook. It's called Activate, Unorthodox Philosophies that Explore Anxiety, Depression, and Suicidal Thoughts as Symptoms of Suppressed Superpower. So also, if you're on TikTok, it's on TikTok Shop as well. It's Timmésha B Speaks on TikTok. It's Alchemity on TikTok. All right. So I remember I was sitting down with one of my clients and we were having a roundtable discussion of what the next steps were going to be. There was an audit coming up from the state and we were sitting around just making sure that they were going to be prepared. They had everything in order and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, my client had hired another young lady in their HR department. And now this young lady, and again, I talk about this briefly in my book, but this young lady was out for my job. She wanted it so bad. She wanted the role of a DDP so bad. She was willing to do undermining things, underhanded things in hopes that she would get it. She never did gain it, by the way. And if she did, I was long gone by that time. So I remember sitting around at a round table and this young lady had gone into my file to see how much my client was paying me. Now, mind you, I was a consultant, not an employee. So we're sitting around the round table and she says, she looks at how much I'm being paid because what she wants my client to do is to take away from what she's paying me so she could pay her. It gets deep, y'all. Stay with me. And so she says, well, you're getting paid this much every month. And she said something so ignorant, you guys. I was going through so much at the time that I didn't even catch it. I'm about to tell you what she said, but I was going through so much at the time that I didn't even catch it. When I look back on that months later, I was already gone from this client. But when I tell you I was going through so much, my mind was too cloudy to even catch something so freaking simple, so minute. She said, what was it? She said, well, in the month of April, it's only 3 weeks in the month of April instead of 4. So you shouldn't be getting paid this much. And I just looked at her and everybody just kind of was quiet and looked around. I know some of y'all are like, what the hell? Oh, hell no, she didn't. I know some of y'all, honey. I know. And I felt the same way months later. But again, I was going through so much at that time in my personal life. Things were just up in arms at that time in my personal life. I don't know if some of you know, if you've been following me for some time. Excuse me, Mercury's in retrograde, so I'm stuttering a little bit. Stutter. So, for those of you who've been following me for some time, you know that I was on a very deep, dark journey concerning my mother, and the criminal justice system and fighting for her freedom at that time. So my mind was just so occupied. And so when she said that, I didn't even catch it. It sounded so ignorant and so silly. But what I failed to do at that time is what I am teaching and sharing with all of you, just as an example, so that you know in the future, or even right now in your present life, how to stand firmly in your power and in your knowledge and in knowing your stuff to where you can never be moved. And what I wanted to say, what I should have said then that I didn't say was, I don't give a damn if it was 1 day or 1 second in the month. This is my monthly fee, right? And who are you to be looking in my files? I am a consultant, not an employee. I never gave you permission to look into my records. The conversation between my client and I and how much I receive from my client is between my client and I, not you. You are an employee. I'm a consultant. And I didn't say that at the time because, again, my mind was just so somewhere else. And again, sorry for the noise in the back for those of you who are probably just joining in. The noise in the back, there are construction workers around where I live. So if you hear that noise, please do your best to ignore it. I'm doing my best to ignore it, although it's very frustrating. It was a little quiet before I started recording. And now that I'm recording, all of a sudden it's back to back noise. Here we go. So I only share that example because I just want you all to see how imperative it is, how necessary it is, how much of a requirement it is that you know your stuff, even down to the basic, petty, minute shit. Knowing your stuff, knowing your shit will ensure that you are never moved out of your position of power, out of whatever your purpose and your missions and your talents and your gifts, your skills, or your abilities are. You become immovable. You become unfuckwithable when you know your shit. Going back to those of you who are interested in being speakers, like many of you know that I worked in media for some time, and I still do when an opportunity presents itself and when it aligns with my mission and purpose, I show up. But those of you who've been following me for some time, you know that I started off in radio, then I became a journalist for a media company. I'm an award-winning journalist. Okay, I've done red carpet interviews and worked with celebrities and human rights icons. I've had very fun and interesting experiences. And so there were some folks who asked, well, how do you do that? How do you get into the media space? How do you become a journalist? How do you confidently speak in front of crowds of people the way that you do, the way that you have done, the way that you have? And this is what I'm sharing with you. Knowing your stuff is what sets you up to be a person in your power who is respected, who is revered, who's unfuckwithable, who's immovable, who is a person of value, right? So when you step into a space and you step into a room, knowing your stuff is what gets you there and keeps you there, right? Do your research as a public speaker. Whatever it is you're going to speak about, make sure you do your research on the company, right? Make sure you do your research on what their mission and their purpose and their overall goals are. And make sure to remember what your mission and your purpose and your overall goals are, because you're not going to go speak on any stage of any company or organization or entity who doesn't align with who and what you are. When you've done the work on and in yourself, you are aware of who you are and what you are, and you're not willing to compromise that. So when you do go and speak somewhere, you're only going to go and speak in places or in rooms because you know who you are. You know what your values are, and you don't compromise that, right? Knowing your stuff, knowing your shit, doing your research, okay, is how you turn your pain into power. It's how you turn the pains of people in that room. Those folks that you're going to speak to, they're coming there because they have pain points and they're hoping somebody has the answers to help them put a Band-Aid, not even a Band-Aid, to help them cure, to help them heal their pain points, right? So when you go and speaking in a room, you are not only have turned your pain into power and sharing with people how to do that, but you're helping them to do that because they're coming with pain points and they're hoping you have the answers to do that. And the only way that you have the answers to do that is because you've traveled down the same road, give or take, of some of the same things that they've experienced. You have answers because you've traveled down that same road in the name of Jill Scott. Only reason I know is because I headed down that same road. It'd be a shame for you not to have your own glow. Come on. It'd be a shame for you not to have your own glow. Meaning it'd be a shame for me. I would be remiss if I didn't share how some of the pain points in my life I've been able to alchemize to my benefit. And one of those things has been knowing my shit. So when people, say, for example, you are on a stage speaking about something, right? You know that my topics are considered very taboo and unorthodox and not really of popular opinion, especially when I share about sexuality education and reproductive rights and mental health and all this kind of stuff, right? People are like, how dare you say some of the things you say? But I'm able to share some of the things that I say because I've done my research on it. Because there is research to suggest that what I have to share is plausible, it is accurate. Whether you agree with it or not, the research is there to suggest otherwise. Okay? Even if you don't agree with the research, it is there. I know what I'm talking about because I traveled down the road myself, right? So knowing your stuff, doing your research, even if there isn't a lot of research to suggest what you're talking about is plausible, you yourself having traveled down that path is enough. Because sometimes there isn't enough research out there to suggest that what you're saying is accurate or will help people. Sometimes there isn't a book that's been written on what it is that you're talking about. And the only reason that there would be a book written on what you're talking about is if you write the book yourself. That's just how it is, right? Knowing your stuff, even if it comes from you personally, it hasn't been researched before, maybe a little bit of evidence is there, whatever the case. But knowing your stuff is what ensures your validity, what gives you your value, and what will prompt people to listen to you and to respect you. Period. Right? And how far are we? We are 16 minutes in. Y'all know I'm going to try to keep these short. Okay? So do your research. Know who you are. Know what you are. Know what your purpose and your mission is. Whatever the universe or God or spirit or your ancient ones or your ancestors, whatever you want to call it, whatever information or knowledge or wisdom you're supposed to bring to this world, know why it is that you're saying it and know the purpose of why you are choosing to say it. What purpose are you trying to fulfill? Because when you have that core reason, those core values there, baby, you become untouchable, unfuckwithable, immovable, and respected. And people will listen. The right ones, the ones who are meant to hear and receive what you have to offer, they will be in attendance. They will be listening. You have the floor. So know your shit, know your stuff, and don't stutter. Don't hesitate. And even if you do stutter, start over and say the shit again. Anyway, I hope this resonates with those of you who are subscribed here on our community because turning pain into power is sexy. If you are, heading out into the world and you are, starting your path in media or as a speaker, as a writer, take this with you. Engrave this on the inner workings of your heart and of your mind and never forget. Okay. To those of you who aren't subscribed here in our community, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Make sure you like and share this video and make sure you comment in the description box and comment in the comment section below. I want to hear from you. Okay. I want to know that this resonates with you. For those of you who do leave me comments and I appreciate y'all so much. I see you and I do reply to every comment that speaks to me. Okay, when I feel guided to reply to a comment, I will reply. And if not, you'll just see a like or a heart from me. But I do see you. I do read every comment. I do. If I skipped over it, it's because I didn't agree with what you had to say. But, I wasn't going to debate or argue with it. I'm just going to leave it there because I want other people to see some of the ignorance that exists. So anyway, again, don't forget to get your copy of Activate on Amazon. It's available in paperback and ebook. It's also on TikTok Shop. Also, don't forget to get your merch. Fear, Feminine Power is a Mental Disorder. You can order that. You can go to my website, timmeshaburgess.com. Click on merch, click on shop, and get your merch right there. Okay, listen, I want to see y'all in the merch. So when you do get it and you receive your merch, take a picture, snap a picture, post it on Instagram, tag Timmesha Burgess and tag our community. I want to see you. I want to hear from you, and I want to hear how you've turned your pain into power by some of the concepts that I have shared. What has been your our community story? I'll see y'all next time. I'll speak to you next time. Ciao for now. Mwah.